Did MI5, whoever you were talking to, indicate at any point whether the Indian government was supportive of this whole thing, or was it very concerned, or did it want to play along, or what?
Well, I was given very specific instructions. I was told that two things. Firstly, because nobody knew who these arms were for, who was this insurgent group? I mean, 300 rifles is a lot of rifles. You're talking about quite a big group. I was told that the Indian government felt it was very important that the aircraft came to India loaded with guns, with Kim Davey on board, so that they could arrest the aircraft, interrogate the people on the aircraft, and find out who the guns were for. And that was told to me very, very specifically. I was told it was vital that the aircraft entered Indian airspace. And the reason for that is because, of course, this was before 9/11. And in those days, the only place where it is an offence to conspire against India is in India. It's not a criminal, it wasn't a criminal offence to do that in London or Copenhagen or New York or Paris. You can conspire against anybody you like. So, of course, nobody could actually arrest anybody because no offence had been committed. And that seemed very plausible to me. The other thing that I was told, and this has come back to haunt me many times because it's been twisted away from what it was. I was told that MI5 did not want me to supply the guns to Kim Davey. And the reason for that was because once they were arrested in India, there would be a paper trail. That paper trail would inevitably come back to me because I would have been paid. And therefore, MI5 would have had to have told the Indian court that I was the informer that gave the information. And that is against their rules. They don't want to give the names of informers ever. So it was decided that in order to, you know, it would be very suspicious if I just turned to Kim Davey and said, I don't want anything to do with this. Why would I do that? Profitable job. But because they had decided they wanted to buy an aircraft, it became easy, and it was decided that I should tell Kim Davey that the purchase of an aircraft was a very difficult and complicated job, which is true, it is. And I could say to him, I don't have time to deal with an arms shipment as well. So I'll deal with the aircraft sale and you buy the guns from somebody else. And that is exactly what happened. This is where this myth that I was told not to get involved comes from. I wasn't told not to get involved. I was specifically told, don't sell him the guns, sell him the aircraft.
So
and
finally
that's exactly what happened.
So they got the guns from elsewhere, is it?
Yes, they did.
Okay. Did you put them in touch with whoever they got the guns from?
Yes, because I would have got them from a broker anyway, and the name of the company was called Border Technology and Innovations. It's a British company.
Okay, and the aircraft is what you arranged for them then?
Yes, I contacted my various agents, commercial agents in the former Soviet Union, and we located 2 suitable aircraft at Riga Airport in Latvia. I faxed that information out to Kim Davey, and he and his friend Wai Hong Mak came over and inspected the 2 aircraft at Riga.
Okay, so when were the logistics over, in the sense that you had the aircraft, they had the shipment, and they were ready to go? What was the date then of that?
The date then would be towards the end of November, but the reason it got a bit complicated was because he struck a very good deal for the aircraft. It was an Antonov AN-26. That particular aircraft has a maximum cargo capacity of 4 tons. But as part of his deal, he got thrown in enough spare parts to last him for 2 years. That filled the whole of the cargo space of the aircraft. So he had to fly the aircraft to the subcontinent and unload the spare parts and then fly back to Europe and collect the guns. That's why it carried on till December.
So where did he go to in the subcontinent in the first journey?
He had been planning to fly to Dhaka in Bangladesh, but he didn't get that far. He stopped at Varanasi and stayed at, I think it was the Great Eastern Hotel, where he met with some other people who were involved with this. I don't know who they are. There's been speculation, one of the guys was English. There's been speculation he was an intelligence agent of some description. I don't know anything about that. That's only what is reported. But I have got the receipts where he's paid for his stay at the Great Eastern Hotel in Varanasi.
And how long was he there? And then he went back to Copenhagen, right?
Yes, he did, yes. And at some stage, they went round the area that was a proposed drop zone, which is very close to Varanasi, really, because later on, the CBI recovered photographs that he'd taken that were dated to that time. But I don't have any personal knowledge of that. I can only tell you that the CBI recovered photographs that suggested he was at the Purulia district around the same time.
So all through, was it agreed that you would travel on the same aircraft, or were you not going to do that?
Not at all. No, no, no. Good Lord. We gun dealers, I wouldn't expect ever to actually see anything I sold. If you bought a consignment of tank ammunition from me, I would buy it from the factory without seeing it. I would consign it from one customs off port to another one. You would collect it from the customs thing in India, and as soon as you took it away from the customs shed, your letter of credit to me would be cleared. You and I would not meet. Neither would I see the arms and ammunition. There was never any thought that I would ever be on that aircraft.
So when did they tell you that they wanted you there?
Well, what happened was this. I have to very briefly, it must be tedious for you, I know. When you buy an aircraft, for example, Indian Airlines jets are all registered with the Civil Aviation Ministry in Delhi, and they have to have an Indian certificate of airworthiness. Right. And if they have that, they can fly anywhere in the world. If I buy an Indian Air Force, Air India, I do apologise. If I buy an Air India jet from you to bring to England, I can't fly it from England on the Indian certificate of airworthiness. I have to re-register it in England and get an English certificate of airworthiness. And what happens is that when you sell me the aircraft, you will give me a one-off certificate that enables me to fly it from Delhi to Heathrow. And that's it. Once it's in Heathrow, it's grounded. It has to be re-registered and rechecked, re-licensed. Okay. Davy bought this aircraft from Latavia, the state airline in Riga, and they gave him a one-way certificate of airworthiness that should have taken him as far as Dhaka. But he went to Varanasi and then flew back. Now, when he was flying back, he had to land at Bulgaria. This is where he was going to load up the arms and ammunition. The civil aviation authorities at the airport in Burgas gave him permission to land, but they noted that his certificate of airworthiness had expired. So they said to him, you can land, but you cannot take off again until you have a new certificate of airworthiness. So he was going to be stuck at the airport in Bulgaria with an aircraft he'd bought in Riga in Latvia, a long way away, and he didn't have a certificate of airworthiness. So he telephoned me from Sharjah in the Gulf and explained this problem to me and asked me if I could arrange for a new certificate of airworthiness to be issued. And as it happened, the Special Branch and MI5 officers were sitting in my office when I took that phone call. And I put the call on the loudspeaker. They listened to all this detail. I told him that I could probably arrange this.
Did you tape it as well? Did you record it, the conversation?
Yes, we did. Yeah, in those days, in that line of business, I routinely recorded every conversation that I had on the phone. Only self-preservation one does this. So I telephoned my agent in Riga, who'd helped with the purchase of the plane. And he said he could get a replacement certificate. It would cost $400 or $500 US, I think. And he then contacted the Bulgarian aviation authorities, and they said that they would accept a fax copy of that, providing it was certified by his own agent in Burgas. So he arranged to do that, and of course that had to be paid. And the only way to do this was for me to fly to Burgas and see the agent, get this thing faxed through, have it certified, take it to the Civil Aviation Authority there. They would then telephone my agent in Riga, and the whole thing would be stamped and certified, and Davy could fly. Excuse me. So I did that, and I arrived late in the evening. Burgas is a long way away from Sofia. In the morning, I got this certificate sorted out, paid for it, and got all that done. And then Kim Davey said to me, look, he said, you're the only person who knows absolutely every detail of this operation. And he said, I'm very sorry, but I don't want you out of my sight until the job is complete. So I have to insist that you travel with me on the aircraft. And there was really no way around that. This would be, I don't know, about the 12th, 11th, 12th of December. And he said, as soon as we get there, I guarantee you I will pay you for your time and give you a first-class ticket home. And bearing in mind what I'd been told by MI5, that it was vital that this aircraft did enter Indian airspace, I didn't think that this would be a serious problem. I thought, I'm going to have to do this. I knew that the Indian authorities knew all about it. I knew that the British authorities knew where I was because they had been sitting in my office when this was arranged. And I was also checked by the security services when I left from Gatwick. They tagged me at the aircraft there. And I had a return fare from Sofia. I assumed that the minute I wasn't on the return flight, everybody would realise what had happened. So I thought the best thing I can do is go on the plane. And of course, one other thing that's important here, I knew that Kim Davey didn't have cargo parachutes, and I didn't think he was going to be able to get them. So I assumed that he would get as far as Karachi or Varanasi, and that would be it. He would just stop, and that would be the end of the affair, because he'd be arrested. And I anticipated a couple of days answering questions with the Indian authorities, and then I would be home.
At this time, was the date fixed that the drop would have to be on a particular day at a particular time, or was it still all open question?
No, by then that date was fixed. It had to be, I was told, on the night of the 17th of December.
And did they give you any reason why it had to be on the 17th of December?
No, he just said his people on the ground were all geared up for the 17th of December. That was the convenient night. And, you know, that was his business. Nothing to question, really.
So you took off on the 16th from where? And can we come to that point now when the plane took off?
Yeah. I can't remember exactly the date we left Burgas. 17th, the airdrop took place. So we left Karachi on the early afternoon of the 17th of December. We'd been in Karachi for 3 days. You have to remember, I know a lot of people have made great play over the fact that this aircraft was in Karachi and it came from Pakistan. That's actually more coincidence than anything else. This is an aircraft that has a maximum range of 2,000 kilometers, and it's traveling from Burgas. It has to fly over Purulia. Now, it has to do that in hops. And if you take a globe and draw a line on the globe between Burgas in Bulgaria and Purulia in West Bengal, you can see the only way you can fly there in 2,000 kilometer hops is you're going to have to land in Karachi. There isn't anywhere else. You'd run out of fuel over the Arabian Sea and stuff like that. There had been very bad weather in...
It's a bit strange to, a strange port of call really, because given the relations between India and Pakistan, and then if you're wanting to make a drop, why would you stop in Karachi? Why couldn't you stop in a slightly friendlier country in the neighborhood?
There isn't one.
In West Asia, no?
Yeah, but you've got to do this in 2,000 kilometer hops. That's the problem, you see. You can't land in Afghanistan in those days, that's for sure. Life in Afghanistan was difficult. Okay. Like I say, you can illustrate it. If you look at it on a globe, you can see it is nearly impossible to do it anywhere else. And actually, there's a great deal of play about this in the media, and politicians love to froth at the mouth. And no doubt Pakistani politicians froth at the mouth in the opposite direction. Actually, there's a huge amount of traffic between the two. There are hundreds of flights a day into India who have stopped and refueled or serviced at Karachi. Business is business. The world has to run. And the reality is that these flights are enormously common. There's nothing unusual about it. The unusual bit is that this plane dropped guns by parachute. Yeah. But actually that route is a very, very common route indeed. And you've only got to go to Mumbai Airport and look at the boards up there. You can see how many flights are coming in there.